Has anybody seen my umbrella? Last time I saw it, it was hanging out the back of something quite unpleasant.
Back Sexton Lovecraft on Kickstarter.
You know what we need here? We need a queue.
I sat down with a friend of mine, Scott, who is a famous literary snob, known for making extremely rapid judgments and dismissing books very quickly. So I read him the first line of a number of books, and he had to decide whether he would read on or not based on just that single line. Can he tell a classic from a clunker? Can he tell when he's reading one of his own favourite authors?
I know I was handsome and have always been fashionable, but I do assure you, Edith Bloggs, Duchess of Devonshire, wrote to her daughter at the end of her life, our negligence and omissions have been forgiven and we have been loved more from our being free from heirs than from any other circumstances.
I am intrigued by the first that character then.
What about it intrigues you?
I don't know. There's something about somebody older to me that just doesn't really care.
Would you... I'm sold. Or would you be like, I'd read a bit more?
I'd read more, just a little bit more, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Lacking heirs was only part of her charm. She had always fascinated people. According to the retired French diplomat, Frank Bloggs, who wrote a memoir of English society in the 1780s and 1790s, when she appeared, every eye was turned towards her. When absent, she was the subject of universal conversation. Edith Bloggs was not classically pretty, but she was tall, arresting, sexually attractive, and extremely stylish. Indeed, the newspapers dubbed her the Empress of Fashion. That's the entire first paragraph.
Right, yeah, I would read it. I think it's interestingly written as well. It's put me in the mind of someone like Woolf, but it's probably, I don't know if it is Woolf or not.
Yeah, I got that, and but it's also quite biographic again.
Yeah.
It's like this, when it cuts to what this French diplomat, Frank Bloggs, has to say about this person.
Yeah.
And it makes me also think not just of, what's the Jennifer Jason Leigh movie, where she's really sarcastic, it's quite good fun.
Oh, I don't know.
No, I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen if I can remember. But that was quite fun, and I'm starting to immediately start to think it might be about somebody like that.
Yeah.
So, while it might not be a book that's particularly exciting, there's probably not any car chases in it. I am thinking that this might be a character that's fun.
I think so. I think it's somebody with a bit of charisma, isn't it? And that's so interesting. I think if somebody has that, or it's written in a way that makes somebody believe that they have that, I think that's quite an interesting quality. Yeah, I would read more. I probably would. Yeah, I'd carry on with that one.
Okay. Score out of 10?
See, I think it's nicely written, actually. Let's go for 7, but it may change depending on what we've got.
I would agree with you there. I think that there's enough in that this perhaps wouldn't be a genre that I would read. Certainly wouldn't choose for myself, but I think that there's enough going on there that even though this book is a doorstep and the print is really small, I'd be like, I'd give this a go.
Oh, right. Because it's putting me in the mind of like Dorian Gray, when they're talking about him, or when they're Gatsby, when they're referring to it's this sort of individual that other people find interesting and charismatic.
When would you think it was written? I've just checked, so I know.
Blimey. It makes reference to what the
1780s, 1790s. But the language is obviously not as far back as that.
No.
It's like if you read Defoe, which is around then, isn't it? Or is it a bit earlier? Is Defoe 1690 something?
Blimey, I didn't know as early as that, actually. It might be.
I can't remember. I'm going to cheat anyway and edit this out and just put it on the screen that Defoe is... And then I'll just dub it in.
Yeah.
Right.
Doing a different voice.
Yeah.
1890.
It's good. The Duchess by Amanda Foreman.
Really?
Keira Knightley on the cover.
Wow. I've not seen that. I mean, that was hugely successful, wasn't it? That was really... And
you said like about 7.
Yeah, I did find it quite interesting. Yeah.
I would go with that because, I mean, ordinarily I would say like a 6, maybe even a 5, because there's nothing in there that's like particularly exciting. But the fact that through the use of setting this character up, cutting to that other opinion of her, that sort of hooked me into knowing a little bit more about her, that I actually would read that against my usual preferences. So I'm going to give that a 7.
I think that's been one of the strongest so far, actually. I know this is compared to the other video too. Yeah, it is there, wasn't it? Yeah, sure. Sorry, yeah. Away we go.
The act was billed as a ballet tap, which does not describe it.
The act was what? Billed as a ballet tap?
As a ballet tap, which does not describe it.
Right. I mean, it's making me think, well, what does describe it? So I probably would.
So you want a little bit more?
I'd read a little bit more, maybe, yeah.
His feet created an intricate timpani of crisp, clean taps. There was a breath-catching silence as he leaped high into the air, higher than any human being should, and performed, while floating there, a fantastically improbable... Now, this is French and I'm going to get it wrong.
Right.
En tranche douze. He landed on his toes, apparently poised, yet producing a fortissimo of thunderous taps.
God. Do you know, I winced really because it's hyperbolic language, isn't it? To me, that is just a parody of a parody of a parody of a ballet dancer.
That this is not a typical ballet. That there would be something more to it.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It just seems very exaggerated.
Yeah, there's more, and it's more exaggerated. Do you want more? Shall I give you the
Do a
next
little
bit?
bit more.
There's only 3 lines in the next paragraph.
It's quite entertaining, isn't
The
it?
spotlights cut, the stage lights came up, the audience stayed silent for a long moment, then realised it was time to applaud, and gave. And gave is in italics for like, it gave. Not just gave.
Yeah, it gave.
Gave.
Yeah. Right. No, I wouldn't read any more, to be honest with you. I just wouldn't.
No.
Based on that initial, as I say, sort of hyperbolic use of language, it just seems just way too much for me.
So it was just like the fact that it's so over the top.
Yeah.
That you're like...
I think so. I mean, as you're right, that probably does indicate something else is going on or will happen. But yeah, for me, it's just way too much.
There's definitely more to it. Do you want to know what the text is?
Am I going to kick myself?
It's Robert Heinlein, and it's Waldo and Magic Inc.
Brilliant. It's one of your favourites.
And that because of the ballet part of it would actually hook me in more because I know that he's not going to be writing about ballet. He might write about a ballet dancer, but they would then be into something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just read that. That's good. To me, that's like quite intriguing. It's hooked me and it's good. I would definitely give that a really solid 7. So what would you give that in terms of...
Well, you see, I mean, obviously the author knows language and has quite an extensive vocabulary and certainly the power to use it to describe something, but it seems to me that it's just not used wisely. But as you say, you know the story, there's a purpose for that, but based on being cold to it, it's a misguided use. So it can't be any higher than a 7 because, to my mind, that the Duchess got it right.
A 7 is quite generous.
So let's go for a 5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 5.
Right.
Dear.
Are you ready? This first sentence is quite long again. In the time of Spanish rule, and for many years afterwards, the town of Sulaco, the luxuriant beauty of the orange gardens bears witness to its antiquity, had never been commercially any more important than a coasting port with a fairly large local trade in ox hides and indigo.
That's mad. Do that one again.
In the time of Spanish rule, and for many years afterwards, the town of Sulaco, the luxuriant beauty of the orange gardens bears witness to its antiquity, had never been commercially anything more important than a coasting port with a fairly large local trade in ox hides and indigo.
Well,
it's quite long, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd have to read more because again, you haven't got anything. Well, you've got a bit of. Well, you have got the context to some degree, but you've got nobody there.
I mean, the first paragraph is huge, so I'm just trying to work out where the next sentence is because again, it's quite long. So I'll give you the next sentence. Again, it's quite long. The clumsy deep-sea galleons of the conquerors that, needing a brisk gale to move at all, would lie becalmed, where your modern ship built on clipper lines forges ahead by the mere flapping of her sails, had been barred out of Sulaco by the prevailing calms of its vast gulf.
I wouldn't read any more, just because of the nature of what's happening, seafaring and all that. I just wouldn't.
Not interested.
No.
What do you make of the language?
Bit pedestrian, really.
Sentences are quite long.
Yeah, I just find it
both sentences are hard work.
Whilst I want a bit of flair, I mean, I was just saying about Heinlein, he had too much flair, but that doesn't really happen much at all, does it? Really? Not for me.
So what would you give it out of 10?
Well, so far. See, I'm wondering if this is somebody who you ought to like. You know what I mean? Well, it's not bad, but it's not. I don't want to sit on the fence on 5, but it would be between sort of 5 and 6, really.
Do you want the rest of the first paragraph?
Yeah, go on.
Some harbours of the earth are made difficult of access by the treachery of sunken rocks and the tempests of their shores. Sulaco had found an inviolable sanctuary from the temptations of a trading world in the solemn hush of the deep Golfo Placido, as if within an enormous semicircular and unroofed temple open to the ocean, with its walls of lofty mountains hung with the morning draperies of cloud.
Yeah, I'm definitely out. What about you?
I do want it to get somewhere and get somewhere a bit quicker than
Feels
it is.
like it needs to do something soon, doesn't it, really? Yeah.
So you're sticking with your 5?
I'm out, yeah, I'm out.
You're not reading any more, and you said
No.
5. He's clearly a good writer, but perhaps needs to rein it in a little bit, which is going to get me grief if the wrong people on YouTube see this, because, not as much as you're going to get,
Oh, no.
because it's Joseph Conrad. It's Nostromo.
Nostromo. See, I really like Lord Jim, and obviously The Heart of Darkness. They're fantastic books, but it's too dense, isn't it? But
It's really...
you're wading through a lot.
There's a
there,
long
aren't you?
first paragraph.
Yeah.
There's only like 4 sentences in it, and all of them
Yeah.
are really broken up into like little extra bits. It is quite hard to read.
I don't know if you remember the beginning to The Heart of Darkness when he does talk about the Thames and floating down, and it's beautifully done. It's like really where it shines. But again, I mean, the crystallization of the horror in like those just few words. He's condensed the whole story into that. You see, he's a marvellous writer. It's just a shame that.
Just a shame that you don't rate him as a writer,
It-
as just proven.
In Nostromo, yeah. No, Heart of Darkness is a wonderful, wonderful text.